everyone for joining us today for our trustee meeting of May 28th. If we could please start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So Clerk Brooke and Trustee Faki will not be joining us. They're out of town this time, but we do have quorum with the 5. So today is one of our favorite days, but before we get to that, we also have public comment. So if there's anybody from the public, even if you want to say good things about who you're here to honor today, feel free to come on up. Yeah.
Hi, my name is Debbie Roseman. I live at 4881 Old Post Court. I'm here tonight as a representative of Moms Demand Action for Gun Sense. Later in tonight's meeting, the board will consider a proclamation which will be presented by Chief Gallagher to declare June 7th, 2024 as National Gun Violence Awareness Day in Bloomfield Township. Assuming that we continue to have the unanimous support of the board, this will be the 6th year in a row that the township has issued such a proclamation. I want to simply thank the board and our marvelous police chief for their continued support to address gun violence in our community. Thank you.
Anyone else here from the public? Come on up.
Hi, Julie Kenner. I live at 3651 Holla Lane. My property is directly adjacent to 5845 Lahser, which is up for a lot split today. While I realize lot split will likely be approved, there are some things that I noticed in the packet that I think are missing in terms of details. Parcel B is not mentioned as having any low spots, and this property and the entire neighborhood slopes from west to east. And so parcel A is actually the lowest part of this parcel that's going to be divided. The parcel also has a house with a walkout basement on it. The walkout basement faces our side yard. So it also slopes from south to north, and that wasn't noted either. My husband and I currently have some drainage issues with our side yard, which directly abuts parcel A. So I'm asking that more investigation be done. The lot is heavily forested, to say the least, with about every invasive species known to Michigan residing there. So it could be very difficult to get a correct aerial topography of the lot. Somebody really should go out and check it themselves, just because of all the heavy growth. Additionally, there are oak trees on that property. And while I understand that Bloomfield Township has a code that you are not to trim or cut down oak trees from roughly November 15th to March 15th, it happens. I see it happen in our neighborhood. Our property has a lot of oak trees. So I would ask that the township pay special attention to when the oak trees are trimmed or removed if necessary, so that we don't get hit with oak wilt on our property. And then lastly, because I know there's going to be probably $1.5 million, $2 million houses put on these 2 half-acre parcels, I would ask that the members of the board also take into consideration in the future the inevitable zoning variances that are going to come. I mean, my husband and I are going to have probably a 4,000 square foot house that's going to look down on us. So just for future reference, I'll probably be back to discuss zoning variances. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else from the public here that would like to speak? All right, we'll go ahead and close public comment. Next, we'll go to approving the board minutes of May 13th. Unless there's any changes, I'd look for a motion.
So moved.
Motion by Trustee Kalinsky.
Support.
Support by Trustee Murray. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That passes. So next, we will go to considering the approval of a resolution in support of House Bill 5696 regarding noise control of motor vehicles. We'll start with Chief Gallagher.
Is Natalie here at all?
No, I don't think Natalie could make it today, did she?
That's okay. Natalie came and spoke to us a couple weeks ago during one of the public hearings, and She has been a avid supporter of the noise on Woodward, which the board knows and many of our community members know has been a problem for many years, really since the pandemic has it really picked up. With Chief Gruey's help from Birmingham and Chief Moore from Royal Oak, and then the rest of us kind of in the background, speaking on behalf of our residents, they are sponsoring a bill in the House to amend the current Michigan Motor Vehicle Code when it comes and talks about exhaust noise. And part of this bill is that any modified muffler system will be enforceable without us having to have a decibel reader, which will do wonders for some of the noise control on Woodward. So that is coming up for a vote, I believe, soon. It does have some support, so we hope that it'll make it into the Senate and to the legislators and be passed.
Thanks for all of the work you guys have done on that as a group of all the chiefs along the road. So
yeah, it's been a battle. And as many of our guys know, we're out on overtime every Friday and Saturday night. It makes a difference at times, but there's a concerted effort along the Woodward corridor from Ferndale all the way up to Pontiac to try to curb some of this noise so our residents can enjoy their own yards.
Yeah, I just saw Natalie yesterday at a Memorial Day parade, and we talked about it, and she said, it's been a little rough because she gets some difficult pushback, but I'm very supportive of that too.
Or the Motor City, it's hard to take on the automakers.
right. And this addresses aftermarket, but not the buttons that are installed.
Yeah, so we'll still have your
baby
manufactured
steps.
vehicles that have the different modes of operation, I guess we'll call it, in the vehicles. But this will take some of those steps of those fire cracking sound of, where our officers can actually make traffic stops and not have to get a decibel reading for the volume of it. So.
Anyone else have any comments? No? All right, so with that, would anybody like to make a motion in support of the House
I
bill?
make a motion. I think it's great that all the communities working together on this. Certainly, there's been a lot of complaints throughout our township and all the other communities, like the chief said. So I'll be happy to make that motion.
Motion
And
by
I will.
Trustee Barnett.
I will support. I've been over in that part of town a lot recently. I have a son moving into the Royal Oak area, and it's crazy on Woodward all day long. So I support it completely. Thank you.
Support by
Thank you for
Trustee Murray. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That does pass. Next we'll go to presentation of retirement of Captain Dan Edwards for 32 years of service from Bloomfield Township Police Department.
It's actually a little over 33.
33.
Yes. So Dan, come on up. And if you guys would like to, actually go stand over there and remove that nice cloth that we put over there. So we'll talk about Dan a little bit. The police department is still in a transition phase, and I've stood up here, this is my second year as chief doing this, and we're still in a phase of transition within the agency. And none of these transitions don't get any easier when you have somebody like Dan Edwards retiring here tomorrow is his last day. Retiring after about 33 and a half years here. Dan hired on April 20th, 1992. I was a freshman then. After graduation from Lake Superior State University, where he worked, prior to that, coming here, he worked as a Northport officer in 1991, and he did his internship in 1990. His dad has a history with the DNR, so I think he was trying to determine which role he was going into, and he found his niche here in Bloomfield Township, where he made it a career. Early on in Dan's career, in 1995, he was assigned to the traffic unit, where he became an accident reconstructionist. And I tell you, I was going through his personnel file, and the amount of training you've been through as an accident reconstructionist, it was page after page after page of just the amount of classwork that is required to investigate a fatal accident. A little bit different now. I remember we had a fatal not too long ago, and we didn't have the total station is what we call it now. And Dan's like, well, I got to get out there and get the measuring tape. And I'm like, Dan, 3 hours turned into one. But Dan was a field training officer in 2000. He was then promoted as sergeant in 2002, where he spent as a road patrol sergeant every shift, every midnight shift, did time in the traffic unit as the leader back there. He was promoted to lieutenant in 2006. As a lieutenant, he attended Michigan State University School of Staff and Command and graduated there in 2009. He also attended the FBI National Academy in Quantico, Virginia in 2015, which is one of the highest levels of training that we can get as a executive command staff, and only so many individuals are invited by Michigan per year. So that's an honor that we are considered into that. After that, Dan was promoted to captain in 2017, where he served in all 3 roles that we've had in the department: the patrol division, investigative division, and administrative role. And I'll tell you, as a younger chief, I rely on Dan for a lot. I think I'm the 3rd chief that he's served under, and he's kind of been that anchor, and you need people like that on your team. Even just to this morning, we were talking about moving forward on things, and there may be a phone call or two in the next couple of weeks that we, with some decisions that need to be made and getting some thoughts. As a member of the agency, Dan was part of our bike unit. He was, I already mentioned, an FTO, but he later on became the FTO coordinator, which is in charge of all of our trainees that we hire. Obviously an accident investigator, and he was a department armor and RBT instructor, which is reality-based training instructor. His awards, 1995, he was awarded a meritorious service for apprehending an armed robbery suspect after a foot pursuit at an Amico. Or was that Square Lake?
Jimmy John's.
I was going to say, that's what I was going to ask. He was 2001 Officer of the Year, and then he also received the 2005 Chief's Merit Award, being a member of the team that responded to the death of Officer Gary Davis. So we're going to miss you. Somebody has big shoes to fill. Brian Bazzuti will be taking Dan's spot. We'll get to that in a minute. But again, we can't thank you enough for your service. The residents can't thank you enough for your service. The amount of institutional knowledge that you take with you is obviously, look around, you've had an impact on just about everybody in this room. And it's a pretty impressive showing. We have a lot of good things tonight, but a lot of it's to honor you as well. So tomorrow we'll do this all over again at 11 a.m. Where we'll do a retirement ceremony within the station. But we wanted to bring your shadow box in here tonight. It's the first time Dan's seen it. This is a tradition of ours. When somebody retires, we make up a shadow box. Many of the things are collector's things that they wore during their term of service. And so Dan's big thing is thanking people for their service. And tonight, we thank you for your service.
I was part of the recruiting team a couple years ago, and we had to work to recruit new officers to the department, and our motto was respect. And it really resonated with me as we kind of came up with that and tried to spread that word. And I think the respect and leadership that the board provides to the police department is the foundation. And I appreciate the respect you guys have always treated our department with and us with, and your leadership that you provide. And I think that foundation resonates through the police department, and that's how we in the leadership treat all the officers, and we all treat each other within the police department. We try to be leaders and do the right thing, and we try to treat each other with respect. And I think we carry that to our community, and that's how our agency represents to the community, and I think that's what our community gives back to us because of all that. And I've been very proud to work here, and I recently married to Heather, and her and I are about to enjoy our retirement. So if you would stand up and turn around.
Heather.
And as I always tell, these guys know how I feel about retirees and making sure that they're part of our organization forever. Everybody leaves a fingerprint, right, on something, and or bricks a foundation, and Dan's one of them, with many before us, and all our chairs are replaceable. So it's our job to prepare the next generation, and in a minute we're going to see some of the new promotions coming up as well. So thanks, Dan.
So next we have the police promotions, new hire, and awards night.
All right. Again, thanks for having us tonight. And I hope the families look around the room. We do this job, but it's you that we do it for. We choose this job, and you choose us, so we thank you for that. I'll be done with that now. Anytime I talk about families, I get choked up now. It's probably because I have young kids. So we're gonna start with a new hire. Tim Hagelin, come up. All right, Tim Hagelin. You can stand right over here, Dan. Yep. Or Tim, I called you Dan. So Tim Hagelin is going to be badge number 350. Literally graduated the police academy last Thursday. We're excited to have you. Tim was born in Pontiac, Michigan in 1998.
Oh, that hurts.
I do the same thing now. It used to be me who could say that. He was raised in Waterford Township. He's a 2016 graduate of Waterford Kettering High School, where he was a two-time Oakland County wrestling champion. And he's a 2021 graduate of Fair State University with a criminal justice major. Tim did his internship with us during the pandemic, I believe. So things were a little bit different there. With a career in mind of law enforcement, Tim ended up getting a job and worked for the Oakland County Animal Control for the past 18 months, prior to being our first sponsored recruit in over 25 years to the police academy. There was a grant this year, or began last year, that allowed us to pay for an income and the academy. And so as soon as that came out, we knew Tim needed some help in sponsoring that was one of the holdbacks for him. And so we were able to reach out to him and convince him to work his way this way. And if I can say anything about Tim, a couple things I learned in his interview. I don't want to get too much into his story. That would be for him to talk to you guys about. But he has a story that we're proud of. Yes, it's all right. Jim and Heather. Stand up. Sometimes it takes a village. Mandy, stand up. And Dan Brown. This young man's been through more than we would ever know. And so we're honored to have him. Perseverance means a lot. And it's because of you people. He's standing on this side, representing the good people, and not some of the things that he saw in his life. And so when you talk about learning from people, we can learn in interviews. And when you have to... They can meet where I'm at. All right. Or human.
And not bring Kleenex.
But when you have to ride your bike from Pontiac to Waterford so you can go to a good school every single day, and you do it because you have to, it's a pair of shoes not many of us in this room have ever walked through. And so I promised Dan I wouldn't get upset about it, but I know I've watched Dan shed the tears. And so, again, it's not for me to talk about his story, but it's an amazing one. So we're excited to have him regardless of what happens. He starts training now, so he's got to pass with the emotion that we show. But, we're very excited for him and this opportunity. And I think our residents, what he can bring, again, is going to be truly amazing. So, welcome, buddy.
So, basically been my parents since I graduated high school, Jimmy and Heather Heckler. So if you want to stand up, that's Jimmy, that's Heather. Is that, Jimmy was actually my wrestling coach in high school. Honestly, I probably wouldn't be here without them, to be honest. They let me live in their house, basically rent-free for like 6 years while I went through college. Without that, I don't know where I would have been because I really didn't have a plan afterwards. I was going to live in my car and go to college and try to go that way. But they really made it happen for me. And the same thing with Dan and Mandy through high school. I mean, Dan kept me out of trouble a lot. I mean, he made sure that I didn't go do stupid things in Pontiac and fall into the same crowd that I lived around. So I grew up in a bad neighborhood, drug dealing, all that stuff all around me, and I didn't want to be like that. And honestly, Dan and people from this department made me want to become a cop. There's no other department I really wanted to work for. It's the best department around town. And Gallagher makes it really easy to be like, yeah, I want to work for them. So that's all I really have to say. I'm proud to be here, and I'm gonna try my best to. Try my best to pass, Soley.
I'm not getting choked up anymore. Told you. There was a few that had to be, that I knew. I told Dan before I came in, I'm going to struggle through these ones. Anyways, we'll move on to promotions. Captain Pizzuti, come on up. Right there. So on May 11th, Brian was promoted to captain with the impending retirement of Captain Edwards. Brian and I hired on the same day. I'm 231, he's 232, and I think there was a mistake in the paperwork, so I have seniority by about a minute. Brian's been here obviously since 2000, December of 2000. Has served in many roles within our agency. We kind of, if we were working a shift together, it was usually, there was some trouble happening somewhere because one of us it was a magnet for stuff. He became an FTO. He was then put into our violent crime task force and got many years of experience doing some impressive work, working under the FBI's authority with undercover work and really violent crimes. And some of the cases that we had during his tenure, he had an instrumental part of solving. In 2017, he was promoted to the rank of sergeant, 19 to lieutenant, and then obviously now 24 to the rank of captain. He'll be taking over our patrol division with Captain Mullen moving over to our investigative division, taking over for where Dan was, and mentoring Brian before his impending retirement within the next year or so. So again, we continue to move forward. We're really excited to have Brian as part of our executive team here. He's been an instrumental person in our use of force training, pretty much created our entire program. He's the one who creates all our annual reports on that and reviews every use of force we have within the agency to make sure it falls within the laws and anything that we can learn. And then he takes it back with our reality-based training instructors who help out. So for that, Brian, we congratulate you. We're excited for your time.
Thank you. Say something. I just want to say thank you to everybody in this room. Again, I wouldn't have this opportunity if it wasn't for everybody here. I want to introduce just my son and my daughter here. They made a trip, so that's very nice of them. Stand up real quick. Come on. There they are. So thank you for that. But thank you again. I promise I will be the best I can to serve the community in Bloomfield and all the residents and everybody in this room. So thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, Lieutenant Wojciechowski. Tony, a.k.a. Tone Loke. Whatever else they may be for Tony. Fozzie, who's his undercover name. What else, anything?
Oh, I didn't know that one.
Several undercover names.
Fozzie. Yeah, that'll work. Badge 258. Tony hired on in 2004. Where he spent the majority of time in the patrol division. He was then selected to go to our Troy surveillance unit. Again, many of our officers who get promoted come from a specialized unit. He did many years in Troy surveillance and became one of the crew leaders within that organization. They worked countless number of cases, from homicides to auto thefts to home invasions. Just an array of things. And one nice thing about Tony is that he brought back the experience with him from that and back to our road patrol. He's a firearms instructor and reality-based training instructor. He's one of our proctors, one of our lead instructors for reality-based training, which is such an important role for us. He was promoted to sergeant in 2022 into the Road Patrol Division. And then in 2023, late last year, we brought him up from Midnights and put him in charge of our animal welfare and traffic division, in which many of you know has done a phenomenal job at kind of redesigning and redeveloping and reimaging our animal shelter to where it is today, and it's still progressing forward under the leadership now of Sergeant Sparks. So Tony was promoted effective same day as Brian, I believe it was, and he's assigned to Midnights now. Sorry, Katie. I feel like Tony comes from Midnights, goes to days, and then comes to Midnights like real quick again. But he's really a role model to our officers on Midnights. One of the things I know he takes pride in for us is developing younger officers and encouraging them to be proactive police officers. And I know his first night on the road, I think they had a couple drug arrests and some other thing that goes on around. So, Tony, we welcome you to the command staff and as a lieutenant, and we're looking forward to the good things you'll do. Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you all. Just want to take a moment to thank my family who's split in the room here. I guess some in the back and some up front here. My wife, my son, my daughter. My parents are in the back there if you want to raise your hands. And my 2 little girls. I know I've had time to spend with the board as well, so I thank you all as well. Thank you.
Sergeant Shoemaker. On June 8th, Sergeant Shoemaker will be Lieutenant Shoemaker. Jim hired on in 2001. He's badge 238, so he did not hire on too long after Captain Pizzuti and I. Jim hired on in 2001. Shortly thereafter, probably within 4 years, he became an FTO. He was assigned, he's the only guy that's been assigned to 2 outside units. He was assigned to this Troy Special Investigations Unit when we only had it was only about a year assignment, I believe, at that time. And then shortly thereafter, he returned to Road Patrol and then was assigned to our Oakland County Narcotics, where he spent 3 years. After leaving narcotics, he came back and became a traffic investigator here within the township and spent most of his, what I would call his mature years in the law enforcement in the traffic division, where his knowledge of, again, investigating fatal car accidents, but it wouldn't be too often that somebody, and motor carrier stuff, he was instrumental in our motor carrier weigh station in the back, but it's very often that one of us is typing him, hey, can you stop by this traffic stop for a minute? 'Cause I got a question on motor vehicle code. And it's like he's well, I guess they use phones nowadays, but he was our phone back then. And so Jim was promoted to sergeant in 2022. Him and Tony are following the same path. And then in 2023, he was assigned to our investigations division. And Lieutenant Pizzuti at the time and Jim have really reshaped our investigative unit. It had a complete turnover, which is rare, but we had a complete turnover. I think our senior detective now has about 2 years-ish, maybe a little more. And so we lost a lot of, again, institutional knowledge when it comes to our investigative unit, and Brian and Jim have done just an amazing job with our investigative unit and where it's at today. So it's one of the reasons Jim stood out in the promotional process, and we're looking forward to him. He's going to Midnights too, so congratulations. Thanks, man.
No, thank you very much, everybody. Obviously, I couldn't, like I'm sure everybody else, I couldn't do it without the full support of my family. So, my wife Andrea and my boys Sullivan, Carson, and Jameson, come up here. Come up here. Come on up here. Everyone else got off easy. You guys got to come up.
How cute they.
Oh. So I couldn't do it without you guys. So thank you very much, and thank you for giving me the continued support when I'm on.
Bob Zaremba, come on up. I'm going to do 2 presentations for Bob, but first we're going to start off with his promotion to sergeant, effective the same day as Sergeant Shoemaker, or now Lieutenant Shoemaker. Bob is badge 284. He's going where he's going because I trained him. Okay, he really trained me probably. Bob hired on in 2013, and there's one thing that we're going to see probably over the next couple of years is the youth within our agency. And when I say the youth, I don't mean that in any disrespect. Some of these young guys are really starting to shine and grow within the agency, and they're going to be the leaders of our agency in the future, and I'm confident Bob is one of them. Bob has spent his entire year, all of his years here so far here in the patrol division. But with that, when we looked for volunteers for our accreditation, Bob jumped at the opportunity. That was, I believe, in 2019. So about 18 was when we started the process. So with 5 years on the job, he volunteered to jump right in and became our accreditation manager with Lieutenant Murphy. Bob now travels all throughout the state and monitors all these other agencies going through the accreditation process. And he's one of the, really, when I get a phone call, he's one of the main evaluators in the state. So he goes all over the state and he's able to learn stuff from other agencies and the good things they're doing, and then he can bring them back because there's no plagiarism in law enforcement. So he can bring them right back, and he has the ability to do that. And it's a task-driven. A lot of the time that he does it, he's doing it on his own time. We send him on duty, but reading the paperwork and the stuff that has to go right and writing the reports takes quite a bit of a time. Bob is our firearms instructor, and he's a reality-based training instructor as well, and he's our tactical care instructor with Officer Elliot Wilson. Both of them have really developed our tactical care, casualty care program here, and have been instrumental in our new go bags in the cars and many of the trauma kits that we carry on our person now with tourniquets and things of that nature really have been developed by them. Bob will be promoted June 8th, I believe it is, and he's going to he'll be going to nights with Lieutenant Shoemaker. And so he's going to be busy, and again, he's another guy I feel like that comes from nights and goes right back to nights, but it'll be a good thing. And while you're up here, so congratulations on that. But while he's up here, I'm going to skip ahead a little bit on an award because Officer Zaremba was also picked by his peers, which is a big deal in my opinion. When it's one thing to be picked by your administration staff or supervisors, but it's a whole nother thing to be picked by your peers to be Officer of the Year here in the agency. And so Bob is our 2023 Officer of the Year. So congratulations on that as well. Bob grew up in Livonia. He graduated Livonia Churchill in 2006. He graduated Eastern Michigan University with a bachelor's in criminal justice and then also a master's in criminal justice. He was a part-time dispatcher for EMU before he came to Bloomfield Township, and also graduate of the Wayne County Regional Police Academy. And so we're excited that he's a member of our team now. He could have probably stayed on at EMU. I know when I was down there for a graduation last year, they were asking me about him and making sure he was still here, and I think they wanted him to come back, but I'm not giving anybody that we hear up anywhere. So you can put that everywhere. We're very happy with the individuals that we hire and keep. So Bob, congratulations, and you can introduce your family.
Thank you. Kind of along the same lines, everyone, we couldn't do it without our family support. So my wife, Christina's here, my mother-in-law, my sons, Daniel and Paul. My brothers and sister-in-law are watching at home with a 4-day-old baby. So, and my mom's watching at home too. So, hi, Mom.
Ed Ryan, come on up. Another promotion. Ed Ryan, badge 280. Ed hired on here in 2007. He's spent the majority of his time again in the patrol division as well. Ed is a firearms instructor, an FTO. He's one of our field training officers, and many of you know what that is. But our field training officers are probably one of the most important positions within our agency, next to being a road patrol sergeant. They're responsible for training any new hire that comes in, and sometimes that's not an easy task. This job is not easy. Since we started, and I think Dan will even tell you in the 33 and a half years, the amount of hats that we have to put on now is almost at times too many. And so to be able to teach all that in a 17-week period almost, it's taxing on you. And if you have somebody that's struggling in the program, and we're really trying to push through, and Ed is one of our senior FTOs and gets a lot of opportunities to train individuals. So he's also a founding member, or one of the first members of our peer support team, and that team has been priceless. If you've heard me talk in the past with our co-responders, our peer support team is a must, and any agency should have them now, and it's been put in great use, especially this last year. Ed is 2022 Officer of the Year, and he will be on June 22nd, I think it is, right around that date. He'll be promoted to sergeant, and he's staying on the day's A platoon for a minute, and I know his wife is loving me for that for now. We went through a span where, 7 years we didn't hire anybody? When we cut from 70-man department down to a 63-man department for a while there, we didn't hire anybody for almost 7 years, and Ed was stuck on midnights that entire time. So I think he did almost 14 straight years on midnights. So he's happy to be staying on days. Introduce your family.
Thank you. Like said before me, I couldn't have done it without the support of my family, my wife, Katie, my kids, Adam, Maddie, and Luke. Just go ahead and stand up. Then my parents are also here, my in-laws, some nephews, and my brother and his fiance are also here. So thank you all for coming.
Nate Eller. Oh, he's right there. Nate Eller, badge 252, will be promoted to sergeant as well, effective June 22nd. Nate hired on in 2004. Again, he spent several years in patrol. The majority of it, he did spend a 3-year assignment from probably 2013-ish to 16 or so. Yeah. In the Oakland County Narcotics Enforcement Team. So he did 3 years there as well, where he was instrumental in many large drug investigations. Nate is our lead firearms instructor, and I believe one of our department armorers. He's been in FTO for several years, and again with Ed, he's one of our guys that gets an opportunity to train a lot of young officers, and then when we have officers struggling, we put them with the senior FTOs and for their leadership and their experience really within that. Again, it's developing these officers and really setting them on the path for their career and having a great attitude the whole time. If you spend any time with Nate and Jim Shoemaker, you'll know what I'm talking about when you say they can make some people laugh together. So Nate will be promoted here again June 22nd, and he's going to staying on his days B platoon as well for the time being. And these guys getting promoted as road patrol sergeants, which means they will be assigned to the road, supervising the road patrol individuals. It's giving us an opportunity to, with some of our leadership that is still here, to mentor and train some of our new supervisors. In the past, we're trying to give some time and rank. In the past, one day you were working alongside some people. Next day you were a boss with very, very little training. So promoting some of our open spots that we've had, we unfortunately we're holding people back. And so now we have an opportunity to that it won't affect our road patrol. And so Nate and Ed and Bob will be great additions to our road patrol sergeants. So congratulations, Nate.
Okay, so probably the three most instrumental people in my family were my wife Danielle. You can stand up. Yeah. My son Caden, and then my daughter Liliana. So this gives them an opportunity to show off. My parents, then I have my father-in-law and his beautiful bride, and my mother-in-law and her gorgeous husband. And then honestly, I just want to say thank you to everybody in the department, because every one of you guys that I work with and that's supervised me has got me to where I am today. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
Bob, forgot to give you your certificate. All right. Can we go on to the awards now? Let me hide some of this stuff. We're going to start off by doing our Distinguished Citizen Awards first. That way, if they want to stay around for the rest of it, they can. If they have other plans for the evening, they can be dismissed. Is it Nitel or Nittle? And Mr. Egolamo? I know I didn't do good on that one. Come on, how do you say that? Yeah, like that. I knew it. Come on up here. It is a tough one. Tongue twister for me. On May 11th, 2023, the Bloomfield Township Police Department responded to a road hazard in the area of eastbound Square Lake Road at Woodward Avenue. Upon arrival, the officer observed a large steel object blocking the far right lane and was unable to move it due to the weight being over 500 pounds. Without hesitation, Mr.
DiGirolamo.
Yep. Sorry, man. I'm not going to get that right. What's your first name?
Tony.
Tony, there we go. Tony and his partner, Mr. Nitel, I believe it is, without hesitation, stopped and assisted in clearing of the heavy object. Mr. Nitel, by removing his backhoe that he was on a trailer, he and Tony helped the officer pick up smaller debris, which restored the flow of traffic. While hundreds of other motorists passed the scene, you both demonstrated a strong sense of civic duty and the willingness to actively participate in resolving the issue, putting the needs of our community before your own. Your actions exemplify the values of compassion, responsibility, and community engagement that are hallmarks of distinguished citizens, and therefore we want to recognize your positive impact on the community. It's not often, usually we're getting yelled at for blocking the lane, and for someone to actually stop and help us, we truly appreciate it. So thank you, sir. How about Dan man, you didn't make this easy for me. Schlenkert, Mr. Corey Kesner, Mr. Quizada, and Mr. Rangel. Any? No? Nobody's running from outside?
There.
All right, well, I'll tell you what they did. They were traveling northbound on Telegraph Road near Lone Pine when they came across a disabled motorist blocking the far right lane. They immediately recognized the driver, a 90-year-old woman, was in distress and having a medical emergency. Without hesitation, they all sprang into action, summoning 911 for emergency medical assistance and blocked traffic to ensure the driver would not be struck by oncoming vehicles. Recognizing the need to prevent the driver from further endangering herself, the decision was made to remove the keys from the ignition. Their decisive and compassionate response undoubtedly saved this elderly driver from serious harm. Due to their quick thinking and willingness to help a stranger in need, the driver was safely transported to the hospital. They all demonstrated remarkable civic responsibility, empathy, and a commitment to the well-being of others. For this, we recognize them for outstanding community members, and they should take great pride in making a positive difference. And they all will receive, and we'll get it to them, a letter of appreciation. Christy Harms. The first one is a honorable mention. On March 16th, 2023, at approximately 7:15 p.m., dispatcher Christy Harms received a call of a 65-year-old male who was unconscious and unknown if breathing. Dispatcher Harms was able to quickly determine through her EMD questioning, which is our emergency medical dispatch questioning, the male subject was experiencing agonal breathing. Dispatcher Harms provided the caller with CPR instructions until paramedics arrived on scene. Due to dispatcher Harms recognizing the signs of cardiac arrest, starting CPR quickly with the call taker and the quick response of the paramedics, she was instrumental in saving this man's life, and for that she will get an honorable mention certificate. Oh, I got two more here. Okay. Lieutenant John Weiss. Another honorable mention certificate. On May 12th, 2023, Lieutenant John Weiss was assisting two other officers with a mental health welfare check, wherein the subject had a valid order for commitment issued by a judge. Upon contact with the subject, he immediately became verbally and physically aggressive towards the officers. Lieutenant Weiss was attempting to de-escalate the subject while communicating with him when he punched Lieutenant Weiss twice in the jaw and then began to grapple with him and other officers. While engaged in this initial clinch, both parties fell to the ground and Lieutenant Weiss broke his left forearm, which is his dominant arm. Despite the serious injury, Lieutenant Weiss continued to assist the other officers until the subject was safely secured on a gurney and placed in a Bloomfield Township Fire Department rescue vehicle. Due to your exceptional level of service and professionalism, no one else was injured, and the subject was able to receive the care he needed. And for that, you've received an honorable mention. Dispatcher Melissa Sleeman. She's not here? I'll tell you what she did. On November 29th, 2023, at approximately 5 a.m., Dispatcher Melissa Sleeman answered a 911 call from a frantic husband reporting that his wife was in active labor and they were rushing to the hospital. With the wife audibly in distress in the background and announcing the newborn's arrival, Dispatcher Sleeman remained calm and collected, obtaining the crucial details needed for the responding paramedics. Despite the high-stress situation, Dispatcher Sleeman provided clear, step-by-step instructions to the caller on how to care for the newborn until help arrived. Her ability to maintain her professionalism and provide life-saving guidance in those critical moments undoubtedly made the difference in ensuring the safe delivery of the baby. Her exemplary performance as a public safety dispatcher is a testament to their training, dedication, commitment, and serving the community. And if you haven't, our dispatchers, when they take a 911 call, they never know what's on the other line of that. And Dispatcher Harms, just recently, to give her again credit, we assisted with a barricaded gunman in Franklin probably about a month ago now, and for 6 hours she stayed on an open 911 call. So we just never know what they're going to run into. So again, let's get the honorable mention. Officer Tyler Retford. On vacation? Well, Tyler, new officer, relatively young officer, on October 5th, 2023, was dispatched to the Birmingham Athletic Club to assist the fire department on a call for a subject having a medical emergency. Officer Retford was the first to arrive on the scene and located a 51-year-old male lying on the gym floor. He quickly checked out the individual and found that he had no pulse and was not breathing. Without hesitation, he began administering CPR and continued his efforts until the fire department arrived and took over medical care. The victim's personal physician later confirmed that Officer Retford's life-saving measures were instrumental, stating the individual had suffered a 100% blockage and that the officer's actions had successfully addressed those issues. And so under his composure under pressure and commitment to preserving human life, he was receiving a life-saving award tonight. Every year there's a theme. Dispatcher Christy Harms and Mela Bader. Is Mela here? We can't get everybody in. That's. Dispatcher Harms and Bader are receiving a meritorious service award tonight. On November 2nd, 2023. They demonstrated exceptional poise, professionalism, and dedication to duty in handling a high-risk emergency call involving an armed suspect. Multiple 911 calls were received reporting a man with a gun at the Jewish Federation building. Caller stated that the man had pointed the firearm at a FedEx delivery driver and was attempting to enter the building. Despite the highly charged and emotional nature of the calls, they maintained remarkable composure as they worked to gather all critical details. Through calm, focused demeanor, they were able to efficiently obtain the suspect's description and quickly relay this information to responding patrol officers, enabling them to rapidly deploy to the scene. Your exceptional performance in the face of a high-risk emergency reflect the highest standards of the police dispatch profession. Marshal Scott. Officer Marshal Scott was on patrol on September 25th, 2023 at about 8 a.m. During rush hour traffic on Telegraph Road when he observed a vehicle traveling southbound in the northbound lanes, directly towards oncoming traffic. Without hesitation, Officer Scott took swift action, maneuvering his own vehicle into the adjacent lane at the last moment to block the wrong-way driver. The decisive move forced the errant driver to self-correct, avoiding a potential catastrophic head-on collision that could have resulted in serious injury or loss of life. In taking this courageous action, Officer Scott knowingly exposed himself to the risk of serious harm, prioritizing the safety of the other drivers on the road over his own personal well-being. His quick thinking and disregard for your own safety exemplifies the highest standards of law enforcement and your unwavering commitment to public safety. And we received an email shortly thereafter from the driver. When Officer Scott made a maneuver, he did strike the rear and kind of forced the other lady, her vehicle off the roadway, which stopped them from hitting head on. And she sent a thank you email to us saying that she knows for a fact that had he not done that, she would have met head on with the car, and both of them were probably going at least 40 to 50 miles per hour. So for that, he gets a meritorious service. Sir Gunnar Bjornsson. Thought I saw you over there. On March 11th, 2023, Officer Bjornsson was on scene for an open house party involving more than 100 juveniles when he received information that a juvenile who had fled the scene needed immediate medical attention. Officer Bjornsson left the residence and began walking north towards the woods, calling out when he heard a faint response coming from the marsh area. At that time, they did not know where the subject was at. Officer Bjornsson traversed through the snowy, wet marsh that at times took him through knee-deep, challenging terrain until he located the juvenile, who was with a friend and his mother. The juvenile had vomited, was shivering from the wet and cold environment, and was not able to stand or walk on his own. Officer Bjornsson, along with the other two, assisted the juvenile to his feet and then helped carry him up 100 yards up a dock and then another 100 yards to the nearest point to await medical personnel. Due to Officer Bjornsson's exceptional actions and unwavering commitment to public service, the juvenile received critical medical attention in a timely manner. His actions exemplify the values of this department and have earned you the admiration of your peers and the community you serve. We are honored to recognize your heroic efforts with this Meritorious Service Award. Officer Tom Orlowski. Village Officer Tom Orlowski. On June 12, 2023, Officer Tom Orlowski took a report of a felonious assault with a gun and the victims being three 16-year-old juveniles. There was little to no suspect information given, except for a middle-aged white male driving a red SUV, possibly a Ford Escape. The report was turned over to the Detective Bureau, and all three victims were interviewed again. Officer Tom Orlowski demonstrated exceptional initiative and reviewed the detective's follow-up, of which a few more details were reviewed in that report. Officer Orlowski drew upon his deep knowledge of the community he patrols in the village, they know everybody, to identify a possible suspect. Through his diligent follow-up and keen investigative skills, Officer Orlowski was able to develop a strong lead, ultimately resulting in charges being filed against the suspect. Your unwavering commitment to pursuing justice, even in the face of sparse evidence, which I remember we had nothing to go on, is a testament to your professionalism and dedication to public safety. Your many years of law enforcement experience at Novi shine through there. For that, he'll also receive a meritorious service. This is a lot of guys. Lieutenant Mike Buchek, K-9 Officer Tom Box, and K-9 Havoc. Officer Christopher Samad. I like to call him Kamaj. Is Chris here? There he is. Officer Greg Hofflick, Officer Sean Manor, and Officer Stephen Mills. Yeah, if you guys want to go there. And our favorite partners here today. Nothing matters anymore now that the dog's here.
Havoc steals the show.
On January, this one would normally fall under the current year, which would have been presented next year, but due to this case, we thought it was important to do it now, and it happened just past January 1st. So on January 15th, 2024, the Bloomfield Township Police Department responded to a report of a domestic assault where the female victim had been strangled by her boyfriend, a known repeat offender who had just been released from jail. Despite the victim's reluctance to cooperate, a thorough investigation developed into a probable cause for a felony domestic charge. During this time, the suspect had barricaded himself inside an apartment and refused to surrender. Recognizing the grave danger posed by a possibly armed and volatile individual, a tactical plan was formulated and swift entry was made in an attempt to apprehend the suspect. The suspect was located behind a locked bathroom door, and with the assistance of Canine Havoc, he was taken into custody without incident. The suspect was found to be in possession of 2 large kitchen knives, ammunition, and magazines for a firearm within reach. Based on the actions of this entire team that night and your dedication to protecting the community, you prevented a potentially dangerous situation from escalating further and brought a dangerous criminal to justice. And in speaking with Lieutenant Buchek that night and Captain Nolan, the victim in this was convinced that if something wasn't done that night to make this arrest, her life was in danger and maybe that of her family. So for that, each one of them received a meritorious service medal as well.
He wants to know where his is.
Exactly.
Where's Havoc's? What does he get?
He's on the one.
I hope so.
Congratulations, guys. Lieutenant Mike Buchek and Officer Ryan Smith. I think Smith's hiding in the hallway. We can guarantee that. I saw him out there. His grand entrance. There he is. He loves center of attention, so he knows that I'm going to make kind of a big deal out of it. It's all right. These two will be receiving the Chief's Merit Award tonight. On August 30th, Lieutenant Mike Buchek and Officer Ryan Smith coordinated and executed a comprehensive mass casualty training exercise at the Bloomfield Hills High School. This exercise required extensive collaboration and coordination with multiple jurisdictions, including other police departments, fire departments, elected officials, schools administrators and staff, and civilian participants. You both demonstrated outstanding leadership and organizational skills in bringing together all these stakeholders to ensure the successful planning and implementation of this complex training event. Your tireless efforts in developing the training scenario, securing necessary resources and permissions, and facilitating the participation of the various agencies and personnel were instrumental to its overall success. The training provided invaluable experience and learning opportunities for all involved, better equipping our community, our officers, to respond effectively in the event of a mass casualty incident. Your dedication to enhancing our department's emergency response capabilities, preparedness, and for our community's overall safety is truly commendable. And they both, during this time, I approached Mike and said, and Ryan and said, I think we want to put on this large event and we want it to be held during Teacher Professional Development Week, and we're hoping that the teachers will participate. And in the end, I think we had over 700 participants, and the amount of time, energy, and effort that goes into putting on an incident like this, with the security that has to take place, with the preparation and the training, there's many of the entire cadre that are here that participated, but behind the scenes for almost a year, probably 9 or 10 months, there was weekly meetings, and I know they spoke almost daily to hold on this event, and I truly believe it went off without any hiccups at all. They noticed a couple, nobody else would ever, and I can tell you we are much better prepared because of them. So both of them received the Chief's Merit Award for their participation. This makes it shorter. All right, Investigations Division. I think everybody's here. Captain Brian Pizzuti, Sergeant Jim Shoemaker, Detective Brian Kaschek, Detective Kelly McGraw, Detective Marissa Miller, Detective David Van Kerkhoff, Detective Chris Waganka, Officer Jason Coleman, Fulman's coming home today. Officer Jason Coleman, Officer Joe Monty, Officer Scott Shuknick, Officer Nick Soley, School Resource Officer Jen Lauer, and School Resource Officer Tom Riney. This makes up our investigative division. The Investigations Division over this last year has provided exceptional work and dedication, which has been demonstrated by every member of the team over the past year. They have consistently risen to the occasion, handling a number of high-profile and complex cases with professionalism, diligence, and unwavering commitment. Their investigative skills, attention to detail, and collaborative efforts with other local law enforcement agencies have been instrumental in bringing criminals to justice and providing closure for the victims. The community can take comfort in knowing that they have a dedicated and capable investigations team looking out for their well-being and follow up on their cases. The success of those operations during the year is a testament to the hard work, dedication, and expertise of each member of the Investigations Division. Your contributions have been invaluable in upholding the department's mission and maintaining the trust of the community we serve. Keep up the great work and know that your efforts are making a significant difference. And I must say, when you look at the entire team and the things they accomplished over the last year and the things that we've had happen over the last year with the Federation emergency, our detective bureau no longer sits behind the scenes. They have radios on their desks. They're listening. They're responding to any type of incidents. Our FBI Violent Crimes Task Force and many of our detectives have been involved in the South American Theft Group home invasions and making progress on some of those cases. Our Choice Surveillance Officer Joe Monty and his team was just recognized last week by the news in all of Southeast Michigan for their auto theft case that they're currently working, where they made 8 arrests in over 400 stolen cars. And that doesn't start without the investigators at the very beginning who supply the info and details for that. And so this collaborative effort overall with the implementation of FLOC, which Officer Soley and Sergeant Shoemaker have really become experts in, have really helped us move it along. And with duty now and Sergeant Shoemaker's leadership back there, the experience they're getting, they're all surveillance trained now. So the amount of work they did this last year and call-ins, I remember in the summertime I felt like I was calling Supervisor Walsh multiple times in a week saying, we've got this going on, and yep, we got detectives on scene. So for that, guys, we are truly appreciative of what you've created in that bureau. So for that, they get a department unit commendation. Officer Robert Bronk. Where you at, Rob? There you are. This is an impressive one as well. I wish we had the video to play, but we don't tonight. On June 30th, 2023, at approximately 3:30 a.m., Officer Rob Bronk heard a dispatch call from a neighboring department, the Oakland County Sheriff's Office, the Pontiac substation, involving 2 subjects, one armed with an AK-47 style rifle, while arguing with another group of people in a parking lot. Before Oakland County Sheriff's Office could arrive, the suspects fled the scene in a pickup truck. The truck was spotted briefly by a deputy, in which Officer Ronk entered the area, subsequently locating the truck, traveling southbound I-75 near Squirrel Road at speeds over 90 miles per hour. It was also learned that the subjects possibly fired and did fire the weapon at the apartment buildings in Pontiac. Officer Ronk spotted the vehicle and initiated a vehicle pursuit, engaging in high-speed chase which ultimately led to the suspect's vehicle becoming disabled. The pursuit went southbound I-75 and exited at Big Beaver, where they went eastbound, and the vehicle ended up becoming disabled after striking a curb, I believe it was, at Rochester Road. Officer Ron continued the pursuit on foot after the subjects bailed out of the car, and working in coordination with Troy PD, and Bloomfield Township officers to apprehend the fleeing suspects. The driver was caught almost immediately hiding in the bushes along Rochester Road and in possession of a loaded semi-automatic handgun. A short-barreled AR pistol loaded with 28 rounds of 300 blackout ammunition with a spent shell casing jammed in the chamber was also found in the truck, along with another gun and ammunition. Through Officer Ronk's quick thinking, bravery, and unwavering commitment to public safety, he demonstrated the highest standards of law enforcement, and for this, we award his heroic actions in the face of grave danger with a Medal of Bravery. Only a couple more. Lieutenant John Weiss, Officer Dan Pagel, Officer Marshall Scott, and Officer Elliot Wilson. This is one of those calls that we hope would never come, and luckily for these 4 individuals, we got somewhere very quickly. On November 2nd, 2023, Lieutenant Weiss, Officer Dan Pagel, Officer Marshall Scott, and Officer Elliot Wilson responded with unwavering resolve to a report of an armed suspect at the Jewish Federation building who had pointed a gun at a FedEx delivery driver and was attempting to enter the building. They all arrived in under 4 minutes and immediately encountered the suspect. Through expert training, keen instincts, and steadfast composure, the situation was quickly de-escalated. The suspect was disarmed and safely taken into custody without incident. The actions of each one of these officers not only resolved an immediate threat to public safety, but also prevented the suspect from potentially causing further harm. Your heroic efforts that day elevated the reputation of our police department as a force committed to protecting the community with the utmost skill, integrity, and professionalism. Bravery and dedication in the face of grave personal risk are an inspiration to all who served. And just to kind of take us back to that day, obviously our dispatchers took multiple calls of a subject who was armed with a firearm trying to get into the Jewish Federation building, and we're short of a month of the attacks in Israel. And so everybody was on heightened alert, and this is one of those calls, and we debriefed it afterwards, that watching them, in reviewing their videos and watching them drive to the scene, it's pretty incredible to think that we truly do drive into danger when other people are trying to run away. And I don't think that's stated enough as we are driving to situations, trying to maintain our composure, knowing that when a dispatcher puts out some type of words and the tone in their voice and the seriousness that we can sense, no different than them when they're on that radio and can sense a change in our voice from the road side of it. And so this was truly a team effort that day. Multiple agencies responded there as well with the assistance of Birmingham PD. And for that, these 4 officers and lieutenant arrived rather quickly and took the subject into custody as he was trying to flee the area. So very nicely done. For that, they also receive a Medal of Bravery. The medals aren't in there. Dispatcher Christy Harms. Join me again, please. Last year, I think it was Officer Ball, who had multiple times, and now here you are. Our Civilian of the Year, Dispatcher Christy Harms. Again, as I said with Officer Zaremba, this is selected by your peers. The only time I get a vote is if there's it needs to be a tiebreaker, and then there doesn't usually need to be a tiebreaker. So again, we're very proud of our Officer of the Year and our Civilian of the Year. Christy was hired on January 20th, 2020. She was raised in New Baltimore, Michigan. She graduated from Anchor Bay High School and graduated in 2009. She was heavily involved in bowling. You know, her and I had something in common. It's probably why you were hired. I was the admin boss then. Big bowler families. She has an associate degree from Macomb Community College and a bachelor's degree from Madonna University. Prior to working here, she was a reserve, unsure of whether she wanted to go into the field of law enforcement or not at New Baltimore PD. We're lucky that it's cloudy, not real hot tonight, because she enjoys life on a boat. And so we probably would have been Zooming her, here. And there's Red Wings were eliminated from the playoffs, so there's no playoff game tonight. Yeah. So we were able to get her here, which is a big deal. I think Meg will tell you, our dispatcher, our supervisor, Faust will tell you that Chrissy's one of our go-tos, and she's willing to take on any project that comes her way. And for that, we're really appreciative. I know Captain Edwards gave her a staffing study not too long ago, and it was done rather quickly and very, very well done. So she's always looking to learn, to grow. After an incident, she's always willing to debrief with us to find out where she could have been better, where we could have been better as an agency. And so for that, we truly appreciate it. And for that, do you want to hear, is your family here? Yeah, sure. Yeah. You're not getting out of that.
They drove all the way from New Baltimore. Front and center here, my mom and dad, my grandma, my boyfriend Rob. And where's Meg? There she is. I just want to thank my supervisor Meg and my two partners, Stacy and Amela, because they have definitely helped me be the dispatcher I wanted to be 5 years ago. So, thank you.
And with that, I wrap up our awards. And again, I want to thank all the families for coming. I won't get emotional this time, but we truly appreciate your support. Without you, these officers come in every single day and do a job that's very, very dangerous. And with your support, knowing that they can go home to loving families means a whole lot to us. It makes our job as an administration much easier because of the support you give. So thank you. I'll give a few minutes here for everyone if they the awards are done. So we'll move on to our next thing when it's called, but you probably don't want to stay here for all that.
Come on.
Oh yes, in the for
guys,
the, yeah,
Nick does a great
job. There's photo opportunities downstairs in our roll call room, and then afterwards we are going to the Fifth Tavern. Fifth Tavern, right? Yeah, Fifth Tavern for a little family celebration. And you're all invited. And you're all invited. And it's on the
that looks
and now
really
it's on the
good.
public record. It's on public.
Yeah.
Great job, Jimmy.
All right.
Great job.
Now people notice the Telegraph in the area if they've been doing bad things. So all the police are there.
I forgot it. I'm swearing everybody in.
Want to go get everybody?
No. Tim Hagelin. Yes, who Tim?
It's right there. Cam.
Hi.
Oh, there was nobody to swear in.
No, there wasn't.
Yes.
I guess we already swore in, or we haven't. Why didn't we swear in?
I think some people already are actively doing the job.
We have to do one swear in.
And some were June 8th, some were June 12th.
That one new hired just
That's all right.
Oh, because you know what? Maybe he's not technically official.
He's not. Until he passes.
Because I saw his.
You have to pass them calls, right?
Yeah. Pass the academy and let him.
Yeah.
Isn't in here. As soon as
That's why. So I'm like, wait a minute.
One thing.
Yeah, apparently. Based on the time.
Danny, we have one swear in to do with Tim.
Okay,
we
good.
forgot to do it. It's okay though.
That's what we were just wondering. We're like,
I thought we were having swearing in tonight.
Is Jimmy? Does he have someone to pin on for it? Is he gonna want his family? Oh, okay.
Yeah, we pinned it during his graduation.
Okay. You threw us off. We were over here going, what?
Yeah, we kept saying, who are we swearing in tonight? Because we saw Dina was there.
We just wanted Dina to join us.
Normally we do all of them, but.
Yeah, so before we go on to the police department report, we'll do the swearing in. So Dina, take one of the mics too. That way you'll be heard on.
You want to stand over there?
Yeah.
All right. Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I
I,
State your name.
Timothy Haglund,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
and I will support the Constitution for the state of Michigan,
and I will support the Constitution of the State of Michigan,
and I will faithfully discharge the duties of police officer
and I will faithfully discharge the duties of a police officer
for the Charter Township of Bloomfield Police Department
for the Charter Township of Bloomfield Police Department
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Kid.
Can we get it?
Maybe you can.
You didn't forget. All right, thank you.
All right. This is for you.
All right, thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you guys.
Welcome aboard. So now we have presentation of the 2023 Police Department Annual Report by Chief James Gallagher and Officer Nick Soley.
Good evening again. Here we are. It's a lot emptier. Now things echo. Thanks to Nick, our 2023 annual report was completed. I'll let him present the majority of it since the majority of it was work done by him. Again, I just want to highlight the wonderful work that we do as an agency and as an organization. We pride ourselves on the commitment to our community and the service to our community. And while we're not perfect at all the times, we're willing to learn from our mistakes, and we're willing to move past them and give opportunity. I spoke with Supervisor Walsh the other day when we were talking about promotions and the changing of the guard within our organization over the next few years. And it's really an important time for us to develop our leadership, develop the members of our agency to fill the shoes that many of us are filling and that we see are leaving our agency through retirement. One of our goals for the upcoming year is to continue to try to hire. We're down 6 officers currently, but that hasn't stopped us from providing the level of service and doing the things that we do. We're able to put some of our traffic units on the road at times to focus in on our selective enforcements and things of that nature. So things are moving along. We're being very proactive in many of the things. Some of the highlights from last year, unfortunately, is we had an increase in auto thefts. I think we were in the 55-ish numbers of stolen cars last year, which is a really high number for Bloomfield Township. With the help of our Troy Special Investigations Unit, we believe we have identified the majority of the perpetrators in those crimes, and hopefully will be brought to justice in the near future. And so that, I'll turn it over to Nick to go through some of the stats from this year that he compiled, and if there's any questions afterwards, we'll be more than happy to answer.
Good evening. Well, I felt more comfortable seeing that all my peers left, and then I looked up and saw Andrea, my harshest critic here. So, but I thank you for having me again to recap the annual report of 2023. I thank Chief Gallagher for letting me come up here, and I promise I'll keep it quick and then answer any questions you may have. So 2023, our mission statement: to preserve the peace and protect our community with fairness, integrity, pride, and respect. We always leave that in there because they are not just our mission statement, but a big chunk of our core values of integrity, respect, fairness, pride, and accountability. And what we do within the department, with each other, with other employees of the township, and then outside to our community, which we value so much. So in 2023, we handled 26,327 calls for service. This is a slight increase compared to the 2022 year, 1.7%. And you can see back there we handled just under 26,000 in 2022. We continued our excellence and tradition in community-oriented policing. This number shocks me: 6,074 vacation house checks. So that's 6,074 times our officers got out of their car, walked around someone's house in our community who was out of town on vacation, just keeping an eye out for things that were suspicious. We also serviced 323 vehicle lockouts, helping people get in their cars, and 236 school security checks. That does not include all of the time that our school resource officers and our school liaisons are actually inside the school. That is uniformed personnel assigned to patrol, getting out and getting into a school. So not just our school liaisons are familiar with our schools, right? And you can see the comparison chart on the right. Population has stayed the same just because of census data. So the big thing the chief touched on is if you look at our different calls for service, it starts on the left with Part A and then moves over to Part B, Part C. Part A's, for example, are our most serious crimes. Those include our sexual assaults, robberies, murder, stalking, larcenies of high value items, and most of them are felonies, which are punishable by imprisonment for more than a year. When we look at that number and the increase we saw, the shocking number that I looked at were all of the categories we increased in. Home invasions, larceny from automobile, motor vehicle thefts were up almost by 30 cars. Identity theft and fraud continues to be on the rise. Embezzlement was on the rise. Retail fraud was on the rise, and drug violations were on the rise. When you look over to Part B, we see a slight decrease there. We fielded over 217 Part B crimes in 2023, and we saw a decrease in hit and runs, as well as operating while intoxicated. We'll get more into that in a second. And then for Part C, just right about the same. I think there was 30 more calls for Part C crimes. These are your minor misdemeanors, but also your very common crimes for service. We did see a slight increase in animal complaints, but the big one that we saw the decrease in is the DWLS, drove while license suspended, and warrant arrests. And that's important because the DWLS, your drove while license suspended, your warrant arrest, and your operating while intoxicated, your OWIs from the Part B crimes, we're gonna see those fall when we have more serious crimes. The reason being is a lot of those are field initiative. So if our guys are out there and girls are out there stopping cars and looking for warrants and looking for drunk drivers, they're gonna find them, they're out there. When you see an increase in serious call volumes, they just don't have as much time to go out there and proactively look. They're caught on cases that are taking more time to investigate, evidence technicians collecting evidence, and things of that nature. Again, in the grand scheme of things, if you were to look at the exact numbers from the annual report, they're only down 20 to 30 calls. So it's not anything significant where it looks like we've really dropped off on those crimes, just a slight decrease, and that's what I attribute it to. So for 2023, again, our calls for service increased 1.7% from 2022. 26,327 calls again for service. That doesn't include all the contacts we have with citizens, but of those calls for service, it resulted in 20 use of force incidents. Of those 19 incidents of force were found to be within department policy procedure in Michigan state law. One incident was out of policy and discipline was administered. Furthermore, out of all of those calls, we had approximately 800 arrests, 798 resulted in arrests. So that's 798 times we had to physically take someone into custody and put handcuffs on them. These numbers, if you look to the right on the chart, are relatively comparative to other years. The biggest change there is if you look from 2020 to 2021, I do continue to point that out. That was the year we changed our use of force policy, where it is now required that we commit a use of force anytime our firearms are drawn. So this may be on a felony stop or a crime that requires that level of force, not necessarily used but pulled our firearms. The fun stuff, community involvement. We keep up with our community involvement. I think every officer here enjoys that the most, right? So we started a couple new things, and we have some great traditions that we continued. In 2023, our biggest addition was the Youth Academy. We joined with Auburn Hills, Birmingham, and the city of Rochester. We hosted approximately 30 teenagers from all of the high school districts within our areas. We brought them in, we fed them, and we had 5 long fun days of traffic stops. We introduced them to weapons safety. They were all certified in AED CPR. It's something I'm very proud of. I know the chief is very proud of it. We had a lot of fun last year, and we are very excited that we get to bring that back this year. So we will be hosting that again in the middle of June. I invite anyone that's interested to contact me, but again, I send an invitation out to the board. We had a lot of fun last year. Trustee Murray, Trustee Fakih came out. We had them doing traffic stops with us. We made the kids pull them over. We let them get a little bit rowdy so the kids could see different aspects of traffic stops.
That was Officer Dennison's fault. He was in my car and he was unruly.
Music up, just different things that we deal with, not negative, just different environmental things we deal with, right? So loud music, asking them to turn it down, and just getting them a glimpse into law enforcement, but while having a lot of fun with it. So this year we're going to bring in the driving simulator, and our community really steps up when it comes to catered lunches and things like that. A lot of it donated. As we continue on, some of the other pictures up there and traditions we continued, the Police Honor Guard, 5K, 10K, involving our community. We had a couple hundred members of our community come out for that. Our parades and community events never stopped. We get out there. 4th of July is going to be a big one for me. We'll hit plenty of parades and HOA meetings. Tie One On for Safety is a campaign that the chief and I headed up with all of our local Oakland County and Southeast Michigan departments to remind all of our community to please tie one on for safety and drive sober during the month of October and November. A good campaign we do there. Our charity events with Santa there in our police car, and then as well as Special Olympics and our Hunger Drive. So you'll see our Hunger Drive up there where we partner up to collect food at our Kroger stores. Special Olympics stays on a big thing of what we do with the torch run, the polar plunge, open house. We brought some of the Special Olympics to open house this year, and our members get out there. As you see Dispatcher Pratcher, they get out there at the games. Officer Detective McGraw was out handing out medals at the summer and the winter games. And then of course Maggie continues her role at the police department. As early of 2023, we continued our visits to Michigan State University and hit other area departments for some of their sexual assault cases and things that she can comfort victims. So she continues to be an asset to our department. Those are the brief numbers. The full annual report is published now as of today on our website. You can go to bloomfieldtwp.org. If you go under our transparency tab, you'll find not only our annual report for 2023, but the use of force report as well as our pursuit report. So with that, I'll take any questions. And I encourage the community to please connect with us on social media for any updates that we have going on for community events and important police announcements.
You want to mention Bloomfield Alert as well, speaking about community signing up for things?
Yeah, you're going to put me on the spot because I can't remember the text 2 number, but Bloomfield Alerts is a big one that the fire department took on. I'm currently helping them with that. They're doing a great job, but any help we can get sharing the word is awesome. Bloomfield Alerts is our new alert system through Bloomfield. You can sign up. It's free of charge. It's totally voluntary, and we will not spam you with any messages. So what I always tell people is this is that major event, that catastrophe, that we need to get warnings out, or maybe on a smaller scale, your boil water alerts, things like that. They are geographical, so it does ask for your address when you sign up. That way we can get it out there to if there's a water main break at, let's say, Maple and Telegraph, you're not getting that on our north end, Franklin Square Lake area. It'll be specific, but these are only used for emergencies. You're not going to get any reminders of the open house or anything like that from us.
No, that'll be a different app that's coming out.
24369?
24639.
24639. 24639. If you text BT Alerts to 24639, they'll send you a link right there to sign up. And if you have any trouble, you can contact our office. We can get on the back end of it and make sure that you're signed up and ready to go. Cell phones, emails, text messages, all of them will come through that way. It's a very good system. We need to build it for when it does happen, not if, but when it does happen, that we need to send an alert out.
Perfect. Anyone have any questions for Chief or Officer Soley?
No, thank you so much. What are the dates of the academy this year?
They are going to be that 3rd week of June. So it will be the 24th, 25th, 26th, and 27th is graduation over at the high school. And if you contact me, I'll let you know some of the fun days to come around, or if you want to come by for some of the not so fun hands-on and get your AED CPR certification, we can do that for you too.
Great.
You guys are easy this year. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And next we have considering the proclamation declaring June 7th, 2024 National Gun Violence Awareness Day. Gallagher.
All right, we have the proclamation again, and I'll read it. We are asking for your approval for the proclamation declaring June 7th, 2024 National Gun Violence Awareness Day. Whereas on an average day in America, 118 people die from firearm-related injury. Whereas firearm-related injury is one of the leading causes of death for American children between newborn and 19 years of age, with 1,703 children killed in 2023. Whereas over the last 3 years, on average in Michigan, there were 1,500 gun-related deaths, which amount to 15 deaths per 100,000 people, meaning that Michigan averages the 24th highest rate of gun deaths in the United States. Whereas as a municipality, highest responsibility in the community that we serve is preserving and promoting public safety. Whereas support for the Second Amendment rights of law-abiding citizens goes hand in hand with keeping guns away from people with dangerous histories. Whereas elected officials and law enforcement officers know their communities best, are the most familiar with their local criminal activity and how to address it, and are best positioned to understand how to keep their citizens safe. Whereas in January 2013, Hadiah Pendleton was tragically shot and killed at the age of 15, and help honor the 118 plus Americans whose lives are cut short and the countless survivors who are injured by shootings every day, and has designated June 7th, 2024, the first Friday in June, as National Gun Violence Awareness Day. Whereas the idea was inspired by Hadiah's friends, who asked classmates to commemorate her life by wearing orange, a color that hunters wear to announce themselves to other hunters when out in the woods. Orange is a color that symbolizes the value of human life. And whereas, in coordination with the Bloomfield Township Police Department, the Bloomfield Township Board of Trustees pledges to encourage responsible gun ownership to help keep our citizens safe. Now therefore be it resolved that the Bloomfield Township Board of Trustees declares June 7th, 2024 to be National Gun Violence Awareness Day in the township.
No question, I look for a motion.
So moved.
Motion by trustee
Support.
Kowalski, support by trustee Murray. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? That does pass.
Excellent.
Thank you very much.
And we have gun locks and things of that nature here at our station for free of charge, and residents can pick them up anytime.
Thank you
So
very
Thank
much.
you. Thank you very much.
With that, I turn it back over to you.
All right. So next we have considering temporary relocation for Precinct 7 for August statewide primary election. And with Clerk Brooke being out, we have another election committee member, Trustee Barnett, to present.
Thank you, Danny. And this is similar, and by the way, Dina's here in case anyone has any questions. This is similar to a resolution that was presented to the board in December where Martin had to move around some of the precincts. So it's a similar type of situation. It has to do, as the memo states here, availability of property on the east side of the township suitable for a polling location. It's rather limited. So there's 5 precincts in that area. Essentially, the polling location at St. Paul has moved to St. George. The polling location at IA moved to the new Eastover Elementary, former East Hills Middle School. And Eastover Elementary now hosts 2 precincts. The original polling location at Eastover moved to IA, and then, if you can follow all this, it was moved to the farm school. Due to the size of the summer camp programs, the farm cannot host the August election in the school building, but is able to host in November. So they're certainly being cooperative as they can be under the circumstances. Therefore, we are required to temporarily move Precinct 7 polling location, and as Martin has stated, seeking the board authorization to temporarily relocate the polling location to the farm activity building. Martin went out with Dina and his team and looked at the site, and certainly it was very available and met the requirements for for polling. So, first of all, unless there are there any questions?
Any questions?
No, just that it's on the same property, if anybody
Yeah.
isn't following that.
It's very easy. It's very easy, same property, parking's accessible, and so it should, and of course, everybody will receive notifications.
Yes, everyone will receive a letter, and then there'll also be signage at the farm building to direct them to the activity building.
Thank you, Dina. So I'll just look for a motion then so I can read the resolution.
I would make a motion that we approve the relocation of Precinct 7 just for the August primary.
Motion by trustee Murray.
Support.
Support by trustee Kalinsky.
Thank
All
you.
in favor?
Want me to read the resolution? Or just?
You can read it in if you'd like, sure.
Sure, why not? Whereas the polling place for Precinct 7 is currently located at the Bowers School Farm, building at 1219 East Square Lake Road, Bloomfield Township, Michigan. And whereas the school district has determined that the site is not available for polling place due to the demands of summer camp, but it will be available for the November presidential election. And whereas the Bauer School Farm Activity Building, located at 1229 East Square Lake Road, Bloomfield Township, Michigan, is presently the polling place for Precinct 4. And after the investigation and review, it has been determined that it can temporarily accommodate 2 precincts for the August statewide primary election and preserve required accessibility for individuals with a disability. And whereas all voters will be provided written notice of this temporary change mailed to their home address, and the fact that the 2 buildings are located on the same farm parcel with internal, external direction signage to aid in minimizing any voter confusion. So now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Trustees approves 1, the temporary change of the polling place for Precinct 7 to Bowers Farm, School Farm Activity Building located at 1229 East Square Lake Road for August 2024 election, and 2, that the polling place for Precinct 7 will return to its permanent location, the Bowers School Farm Building at 1219 East Square Lake Road for the November 2024 election.
So we have a motion by Trustee Murray, support by Trustee Kalinsky. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? That does pass. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dina.
Thanks, Dina. So next we have a public hearing. So first we'll go ahead and have Andrea present for the lot split request for 5845 Lahser Road. And then we have a public comment section after where any of the public can come up and talk for this.
Good evening, Board. Thank you for having me. My name is Andrea Bibby. I'm with the Planning Division here at Bloomfield Township. I have 3 items that I'm going to be presenting this evening. The first item is, you can see up on your screen highlighted, we have a request from our resident, Mr. Don DeClerc, who is here in the audience. He is the resident. You can take a seat and then I can present, and if you have any questions.
We'll have her go first and then if there's questions.
Thank you. So Mr. DeClerc is seeking a request to split his property at 5845 Lahser Road. This is a property that's located on the east side of Lahser. Currently his proposal would include demolishing an existing residence and is seeking to divide it into 2 single-family residential lots. The subject property, as you can see highlighted on your screen, is a corner property, and it is a total of 1.22 acres currently, and has frontage both on Lahser and Hala Lane, as you can see as demonstrated. So the property itself is zoned single-family residential R2. Anytime our township considers any inquiry regarding a lot split, we do have a very defined lot split ordinance, which can be found within our general code. That is Chapter 18, Article 3, Divisions of Lots and Parcels. So the township has, it's above and beyond meeting the criteria within our zoning ordinance in terms of minimum lot area and minimum lot size within that zoning classification. We have, as I stated, our ordinance provision speaks to certain criteria, and this proposal has been reviewed under that criteria. You can also see here highlighted on your screen an aerial of that parcel in which we're discussing. So as part of our calculations and review of this, the applicant has provided surveys, which does indicate, it does show the current configuration of the property. As you can see, as I stated, there is an existing residential home on the parcel. As part of this lot split request, it has been noted, and the applicant has been made aware, that upon 6 months after granting, if the lot split is granted, the applicant will have 6 months to demolish the existing home. So that is the intention, is that this home, if the lot split is granted, that within 6 months the existing home would be demolished. And we're looking at our lot split ordinance. We look at all lots that are within 5, with other criteria, but one of the main criteria, we are looking at all lots on affected streets within 500 feet. In this instance, we have 2 affected streets. We have Hala Lane and we have Lahser Road. Those are 2 streets that are affected potentially by this lot split. So what we do is the applicant, as I stated, did provide a survey providing legal descriptions of what 2 proposed lots would be, what their minimum width would be, as well as their minimum area. And what we do as part of that calculation is we look at all properties within 500 feet and the proposed resultant parcels, in other words, the lots that are created with this request, do have a benchmark of meeting the lot area, so the land area, as well as the lot width measured from that 40-foot setback to be to meet the average of all properties within 500 feet. Okay, this applicant is providing 2 parcels that contain parcel A, which would be located, which is considered the corner lot on Holland and Lahser. The resultant parcel would be 22,781 square feet, resulting in 0.52 acres for parcel A. Parcel B would result in 23,740 square feet or 0.54 acres for parcel B. The minimum lot width for the R2 zoning, so we do look at the overlying zoning to make sure that it also complies. The requirement within the R2 is to have a 120-foot wide lot with sewers. Sanitary sewer is proposed for each lot as part of our lot split requirement. We do require that any lots that may not be connected to public water or sewer are required to connect to utilities. So this would be, they would be required to extend those services, and the lot width does, for each lot, does meet the minimum required of 120 feet. So we've got both lots which are over 20,000 square feet, and both lots which do meet the minimum lot width of 120 square feet width. So included in your packet, there's a table that does show all of those lots that we calculated as part of that area. And you can see the resultant requirement to comply with those averages. Each lot would be required to be 0.47 acre, as well as each lot width would be required to be 109. That's based on the land, the area within 500 feet. Parcel A and parcel B, as proposed, does comply with those averages. They both come in at, like I stated, 0.52 and 0.54, exceeding the required 0.47. They also come in at 124 feet in width and 123 in width, so they do comply. We do review and make sure that all taxes have been paid on the property. There's no outstanding taxes. You can note that parcel A will have frontage on Hollow Lane, does have secondary frontage as part of the, oops, technical glitch. Thank you, sir. Here's some site photos of the parcel. But as part of the requirement, the applicant does provide an area, a buildable area that would meet those requirements of our basic setbacks within our zoning ordinance. So I know there was a comment that was provided earlier by the public regarding zoning variances. At this point, we are solely looking at that lot split and that land area and how it does comply with our lot split provisions. Anything moving forward, any construction, anything that would be forthcoming would require a building permit, a tree permit, as well as would have to adhere to all of our building code and requirements as it pertains to drainage and site grading. So just to kind of put that out there, that this is for the land area itself for the actual split. Anything forthcoming would go through our traditional building permit application, a tree permit, as well as all those requirements that fall under that category. I also was asked, I did get a phone call from a few of the residents inquiring about where the location of the driveway is. We do not have nor do we require which road the home would access from, either Hala or Lahser on that corner lot. One would presume it would be the inner road. That would be the presumption, but until we have an application for a building permit, we don't have that information. We don't require it to be in a certain location. They would be required to get the permits of where they want to put their apron and driveway, but we will not dictate where that's going to be located. So with that, public water and sanitary sewer is available to each parcel. Both resultant parcels, as I stated earlier, will be required to connect to the existing water and sewer, sanitary sewer. as well as I stated earlier, the applicant did provide a sealed survey that was dated 12/14/23, which shows the building envelopes for each lot in compliance with the minimum front, side, and rear yard setback, and taking into consideration that the corner lot would require 240 front yard setbacks. We have had it reviewed by our internal departments. Our assessing department has no objections and that just notes that upon the existing residence being demolished within 6 months of approval, as well as our engineering and environmental services reports that a tree permit would be required for any proposed tree removal, as well as tree replacement, as well as the existing drainage pattern shall be incorporated into any drainage plan, as they did note within their memo that there is a low spot that may collect stormwater. But again, that would all be reviewed and administered through our building permit process. Police department and fire department did note that they have no objections to the proposal. So before you today, you have the consideration to evaluate how the proposed division will be consistent and compatible with the existing lots and parcels. When I did, as I stated, because we did do the average, so you can see on the highlighted aerial, the larger parcel, and you can see the proposed lots would be very similar in size and area to the lots that are also shown within a down Hollow Lane, as well as mainly Hollow Lane. That's where the most homes are located. So that's, you kind of get a visual idea in terms of when we're talking about averaging in width and area. With that, the Township Board is asked to hold a public hearing, hear any public input, and then review the documentation, consider your findings, in either to approve the lot split as presented, subject to compliance with the requirements of Township departments as stated in their various memos, as well, or deny the application as presented. With that, I'm free to answer any questions, and as I stated earlier, we do have the homeowner in the audience as well.
And before we do questions, since this is a public hearing, we'll open up the public comment. So if anyone from the public does want to come up, you do have 3 minutes to discuss this. Okay, just go ahead and you can just introduce yourself and let us know.
I live on 3514 Darcy Drive. We live in a horseshoe.
And your name?
Karen Blum-Paulison. I've lived there for 40 years. And I think part of the reason that people are concerned is that we have a lot of water problems in our neighborhood, flooding, and we're worried about overloading the sewers. We have also had people with sewage problems. So adding 2 more homes, that many people are concerned that the homes will be larger in square footage than the houses that are currently in our horseshoe neighborhood. So I think the maximum is probably 3,000 square feet, 4 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, at the most maybe 3.5 bathrooms. So, you know, that all has to do with sewage. So if these 2 new homes are Bigfoot homes like they build in Birmingham and they tower over all the other houses, that's what people are concerned about. They wanted to, you know, see that these homes are a similar size to the other 41 houses that are there now, and that they're not going to be 6,000 square feet on the same lot size. That's what, you know, they're concerned with. Traffic, you know, there's going to be more traffic. The look of the neighborhood coming in on Hollow Lane has always been quite rural. And I think they're, you know, concerned that's going to be lost. I even used the trees in that section as part of a book that I wrote, and the cover of the book. So I don't know, you know, if no one else is here from our neighborhood except me. And I live at the other end, but we live in a horseshoe, like I said. So any traffic, increase in traffic that comes into our subdivision will end up coming right by my house and out the other side on Darcy Drive. So I don't know if you understand that, but we do have a unique neighborhood, and we want to keep some similarity to what we have now with these 2 new residences. That's all I can say, and I hope that you'll take that into consideration. And I understand the neighbors that are there next to this property because they're worried that their house is going to be flooded. I had 3 feet of water in my house and destroyed everything, and a month later, a foot of water that destroyed whatever was left. So, and we're still dealing with water issues now, which the township is helping quite a bit with. That's about it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else here from the public that would like to speak up? So we'll go ahead and close public comment, and we'll bring it to the board for any questions of Andrea or the, did you want to say something, sirs?
I've been there 27 years.
Can you just tell us your name, sir?
Don DeClerc. Okay. On the corner of Lahser and Hella Lane. When I was a kid, the biggest house on Hella Lane was a guy by the, I can't think of his name right now, but I used to caddy for him. And then I also caddied for a guy by the name of Bob Babish, who lives probably next door to her. That's your house? They were very, when I used to caddy Detroit Golf Club. But anyway, she's a block and a half away from me. And I've never had a sewage problem of any kind on my property. And I don't know, I'm going to have to sell the property, I'm sure, to a builder. And I'm sure they're going to build some nice houses there. The house next door to me is gorgeous. It's one of those houses like they see in Birmingham. That's the very next, in other words, there's 1 lot and 2 lots, and that's one. And then across the street, there's some large houses. A lot larger than her house. She has a little tiny house compared to the ones that are across the street from these 2 lots. And also, I'm 87 years old, and I'm crippled now from a COVID shot. I'd like to sell the property to somebody. About tearing that house down, I don't think I have the energy to do all that, so I'd like to sell it as one piece to somebody and let them worry about it. But the house will definitely have to come down to make the lots possible. And that's all I'd like to say is that I'd like, there's 6 months to sell a house. I don't know, it might sell tomorrow and it might sell a year from now, I don't know.
But that does raise a question for me, though. So it is required that in 6 months, it would come down whether you sold those lots or not. Are you able to do that?
Well,
because that's part of this, the stipulation is, even if nobody has bought that, that house would have to come down within 6 months.
How about if somebody wanted to live in the house and just leave the house?
No, it would be absolutely part of the resolution is if we approve the lot split, is with the understanding that house comes down and there's 2 lots for sale. I mean, you could have one person buy both lots, but they would be buying 2 separate lots with no house on either one. So that's something just to know is, do you understand that that would be a requirement, whether you have sold those lots or not, you would have to knock that house down within 6 months?
Within 6 months.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm...
Because what we could do is maybe table this till you know if you have a purchaser.
I would like something like this, a semi-approval of the lots.
So we can't do that. So what we could ask you is if you're not sure if you have a buyer yet, we might want to table this till he's within 6 months of, because this would fall, if we say yes tonight, you are required to knock that house down within 6 months with no questions asked. So if you don't have a buyer yet, it might be.
I haven't even listed the place.
Yeah, sorry, do you have a question?
No, I agree with you.
Yeah, that you might want to wait until you know for sure if you could do
Because
it.
it's going to put him in a very precarious situation. In this way, once you know what you're doing, if you have a buyer, then you can come back to the board and we can make a decision if we're going to, in fact, approve a lot split. Otherwise, you're in a position where you have to take the house down, like Danny said, and you just, we don't want to put you in that position.
Because it's expensive.
I might want to stay there.
Well, and if you did want to stay there, if we've approved the lot split, that house would be coming down, so you wouldn't be able to stay there.
I would just like something that you've observed the problem and you're willing to approve the problem, providing the house comes down. But give me, I'm just worried about the length of time. I mean, Can I do it in 6 months? It might take 8 or 9 months.
It will not take 8 or 9 months. It 100% will come down within 6 months. So if you're not, from what I'm hearing, you are not prepared for that. So I think you might want to take some time to see if you have a buyer to do what you're thinking, and then come back and say, I'm ready, they're going to have it, and it will be down in 6 months. So
Because-
it gives you the grace. It gives you a little grace period to not feel so rushed, like Neal is saying, and be forced.
And on top of it, as presented, you meet the criteria. You really do. I mean, it's a statutory, there's an ordinance, you meet the criteria to have a lot split.
Can I have something in writing?
Sir, you can sell it and market it as subject
As
to
2 lots,
township board
right.
approval for 2 lots. So you
Right.
can sell it that way, and that way you're not on the hook.
That's
I think
what
the
I'd
point
like
the supervisor is making is that you're legally on the hook.
If you do it tonight.
So
Yeah,
right
if we
now-
approved it tonight, you'd have 6 months from tonight to get that house removed and the lot cleared. So
Regardless, it
Right,
sounds like
right.
really, and
You might not be, you're putting the cart before the horse.
Yes.
I just want you to give yourself the grace of time of seeing if you have a buyer, seeing if you're ready, so that if you don't have one, you can still live in the house until you're ready.
Right. Well, and
If
if
you're getting
Something in
knocked out of that
writing
house.
that you people have accepted her.
So we can't vote on it tonight unless you understand 100%, you will not be living in a house in 6 months, and I don't think you're ready for that. I don't feel comfortable putting that burden on you.
have you
I just-
considered selling the property as is while you're still living there, whether
I
that
haven't
takes?
listed it. I've talked to a real estate guy, and that's as far as it's gotten.
Well, but if you consider, you say, I definitely want to sell it,
Yeah.
but wait till you have a buyer and explain to the buyer with the documentations from the
So how
township.
about we go ahead and have, is anybody willing to make a motion to
Yes,
table this?
I'll make a motion that we table this agenda item until the,
We come up with
until you're in a position
You're
where
ready.
you've sold
You're
out.
a little
You have a
closer.
buyer.
Is there anything I can have in writing that
This, you will
You
have,
have the ordinance. You
have the
can show
ordinance.
buyers that.
You have the ordinance, and we also will have the draft minutes. And then our department can certainly engage in any conversations with any potential buyer, if that would be something that would be beneficial and help put them at a level of comfort.
That would be-
We can work through it together, and then when you get to that point, then we can bring you back before the board.
Andrea, Dirk pointed out too, you could give him a link to this part of this meeting. So you could show the video to any potential buyers of the board is not against the split, it's
In
against
other
it,
words,
it's
what
too
I could
soon.
say to the new buyer, the board will give you the lots if you tear the house down.
If it's the same thing that's presented before us today,
That's exactly what.
that is legally within the limits of the ordinance
all.
that you would be able to do.
That's all.
We can certainly work with Mr. DeClerc to make sure that he has everything to make him feel comfortable, and because I understand the direction from the board, and I understand what you're trying to do in working with him, and we
Grace.
certainly can we can certainly do the same and get him in a position to bring him back here in a better position.
Right.
I'm just worried that I maybe not be able to sell it in 6 months.
Well,
That's the only thing
That's
about
why
it.
it might be a
That's
little
why we're
too
trying to
soon
work
for
with
this.
you.
Project, you know.
Yeah,
I would like
give
to,
you time.
so I will support that based on the fact that our applicant is not willing to commit to 6 months from today. And when he is ready, we can then table this
Revisit it.
discussion and look at it again as presented.
Neal,
Right.
Did you make a motion?
yes.
Yeah, okay. So motion by trustee Barnett, support by trustee Kalinsky. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, so Andrea's gonna help guide you through everything you need.
She's a doll.
Thank you.
Thank you, and good luck to you.
Thank you.
So next we have another public hearing, and it is for the proposed amendments to the zoning ordinance for site standards for ground mechanical and electrical equipment. We have Deputy Director Andrea Bibby.
Hi, so this is exciting. This is an improvement, okay? Anytime we look at our ordinance and we think, hey, how can we just be a little bit better? How can we be more contemporary? Patty and I take a deep dive into our zoning ordinances and we look at our zoning board history. This is a perfect example of that. Okay, we did last year in April of 2023, we did have an amendment that the township board did pass regarding changes to ground or wall mounted mechanical equipment. At that time, we had added provisions for mini splits because that was kind of a newer thing, making sure those are required, as well as looking at potential locations that are acceptable and that are approved generally by the zoning board. And that ordinance has actually been working out very well. Like I said, it's been over a year since we've been entertaining that new language. However, we noticed something that could be even better is that in residential, we're talking about ground mounted mechanicals, specifically where they should be placed on site. This proposal has to do, it's pretty simple. The proposal is to allow, we're changing the terminology of immediately adjacent unit. Immediately adjacent unit, traditionally, in compliance with mechanical code, has been 3 feet. That's been our standard. Anything more than 3 feet away from the building requires zoning board. The issue that we were running into is that code now with new equipment, new mechanisms, the language I don't speak when it comes to mechanics, the requirement for code now is more of a clearance of 5 feet from the building, okay? So the proposal now is for the township board to consider amending our zoning ordinance that identifies that ground mounted mechanical equipment can be placed in either the side yard, rear yard, or secondary frontage when it complies with the setback, when it complies with the setbacks. Side yard placement will require at least a 10-foot setback to the edge of the unit, or a 10-foot setback to the edge of a potential wall that may be screening the unit, okay? And then additionally, they're allowed within a rear yard, again, as long as they are immediately adjacent to the house. You can see in the new graphic that we're providing for you, we're showing a 5-foot maximum clearance from the house. It's in a rear yard. We don't necessarily require the screening in the rear yard. However, most homeowners do opt to screen them in the rear yard, luckily. But in the side yard, secondary frontage, we do require screening. None of this would change. That would still be the requirement. And as I stated earlier, this is really for code compliance. The inspectors, we always get great feedback and work really closely with our inspectors and get an idea of really what's going on in the field, what is the newest, greatest in terms of what you're seeing out there, and how do our ordinances work alongside with what those provisions are. In this example, we feel that by making this change, it'll be clearer. I know that I've spoken with Kathy Weisenborn at the Village. I think she's very happy about this because they often have a very difficult time dealing with this with homes with a lot of windows, and this is a common variance request that comes before the zoning board. So again, you can see up here on your screen in the graphics, you can see the minimum 5-foot clearance. Really not a substantial change necessarily in the overall appearance because again, it still has to meet the setback and screening requirements. So with that, we did have an opportunity to present this to the Zoning Board of Appeals because since they're the ones that are frequently acting on these requests, they thought it was a good idea. They were very supportive of it at their March 24th, 2024. We did present them with the draft ordinance amendment. They were very supportive, and we also gave an opportunity to share this with our Planning Commission. They got an opportunity to see this at March 18th, 2024. They were also very much in support of that. So the recommendation this evening would be for the Township Board to consider adoption of the proposed ordinance 678 as an amendment to the zoning ordinance under our site standards. So this would be specifically a amendment to our section 42-5.17 pertaining to ground mounted mechanical units, which refer to anything from a air conditioning unit, a generator, transformers, pool equipment, or other related equipment that may be forthcoming that we may not even know about. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions regarding the proposed amendment as well as the public hearing.
Yep. So since this is a public hearing, we'll go ahead and open that up to the public. Is there anybody that would like to speak? If so, come on up. And it's only about this item? Okay, come on up.
Has the screening changed or the screening's the same? That's all.
All right. Does anyone else have any questions? All right, so we'll close public comment. Back to the board. Are there any questions for Deputy Director?
I think it makes a lot of sense in reading the packet. It discussed too that the 3-foot clearance sometimes wasn't enough for proper servicing. They're getting so popular, and by easing our requirement, we're going to take a little bit of the weight off of everybody having to go to the ZBA. So I think it makes great sense. Thank you.
There was one more aspect of this ordinance that I failed to mention, which is sometimes we get requests for ground mounted mechanicals to be installed inside of an accessory structure. A pool house, a cabana, what have you. This ordinance would allow, if there was an approved accessory structure, so we're not changing anything with accessory structures, they're still going to the zoning board as is. If it were to come across our desk that we had an application for ground mounted mechanical to be located inside of that approved accessory structure, we would now permit it without having to go to the zoning board of appeals. So that's just another caveat that I just wanted to make sure that I made clear that we are adding that. It's not very common because most of the times we'll look at ground mounted mechanicals as they come in with the structure themselves. So chances are they're already going to the zoning board anyways, but it seemed a bit redundant and unnecessary to require that to get a variance for not being immediately adjacent to the house. So we just cleaned up that language. Sorry about that.
Can you answer a question about the screening?
Sure. Oh, yeah. In terms of screening, the screening is absolutely as required within our current ordinance, which requires for one family placement in a side yard, that it has to be screened with either evergreen plantings that have to either meet or exceed the height of the unit at the time of planting, as well as we do allow for a provision for them to be screened with materials similar to the home. So the screening requirement for rear yard, secondary front yards, meeting those setbacks are still definitely required and will be maintained.
Any other questions? If not, I look for a motion.
So moved.
Motion by trustee Kalinsky,
Support.
support by trustee Murray. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That does pass. So next we have consider approval of the site plan for Ingress and Egress drive approach for office building at 2172 South Telegraph Road. We'll start with Director Bibby, and then we can have the applicants come up as well. Sorry, Deputy Director. Sorry about
thank
that,
you.
Patty. Patty's back there going, what just happened?
Getting late. Well, they did have promotions tonight. I don't know. Just kidding. So my last item that I'm presenting this evening is a amendment to an approved site plan. Some of us are familiar, I'm sure all of us are familiar with this location. This is on North Telegraph, across the street from the shopping center that has the Dick's, the Costco, that large shopping center, the Costco gas, close to the former Evola Music. That will put us all where now we know, okay? So this property is located, shown up here on your screen. It's actually a series of properties. They received site plan approval back in, our applicant who's here, Mr. Iden Calabat, submitted a application back in 2022. The township board did at that time approve a site plan, which is here highlighted on your screen. I've highlighted the circled area, indicates what was previously approved by the township board as part of the site plan for a 14,120 square foot, 2-story office building with site improvements, which also include parking for the former Evola Music, which is now renamed Kauai Piano Gallery. So this is in conjunction, as it was previously, with the property owner, Mr. Jim Evola, to also lend their building, or he still owns the property. He has sold the business, still owns the property. They're still wishing to grant the additional parking. So in terms of the site plan itself, I gave you an overview of the history within your packet. I'm not sure how many questions or how much I should get into that, because generally, actually not generally speaking, specifically, there are no changes to the internal circulation to the site. There's no changes to parking. There's no setback changes. There's really no site-specific changes. So that's why I'm highlighting what the change is, which is a MDOT required single ingress and egress. This was the original where we had 2 curb cuts off northbound Telegraph. You can see the new proposal. I've got it highlighted, as well as a blow-up screenshot of, you can see what's being proposed, as well as restoring and repairing any of the safety path would be required as part of this construction. I also want to show that this was reviewed using our various fire truck turning radii. This was reviewed by our fire marshal to determine that there are no impediments or any issues as it relates to site circulation and access. This has come about, the applicant did commence construction, as I stated in the staff report, and at that time we were then put on notice that MDOT had a different permit review and a different permit that they were going to approve, which did not comply with what was approved in 2022. We got with Mr. Calabat and we discussed about the site and made sure that there were no other changes. So here we are back before you now asking for the township board to consider, we'll call it an amendment, albeit a minor amendment, but still an amendment to a site plan in terms of ingress and egress. So now going from the 2 curb cuts to the singular curb cut. They did have to do some slight shifting of some landscaping, which I also highlighted in your packet. Because of that, we did have that verified and reviewed by our landscape architect, Michael J. Duell, who provided a letter dated May 25th, 2024, indicating that that their plantings are still sufficient and still do meet the requirements of that original site plan approval, because that was one thing. When you move a drive aisle, you tend to shift some shrubs around. Want to make sure that was as it was, as well as always sharing it with our traffic engineer from Fishbeck, Mike Labadie, and indicating that he has no issues as well with the way that the access drive is presented. So with that, I know Mr. Calabat is here to answer any questions, and I just provided for you, just for the board, for people who are not here, this is the elevations of that proposed office building that will be under construction soon. It's currently not under construction. There's no work going on. So this will be an opportunity for them to get back in there and get some work done and hopefully have a plan on record now that is approved by the township board.
You are correct. So we're not here to discuss any changes of the site plan, just MDOT, whenever we're meeting with them, they are trying to reduce curb cuts for safety. So this is kind of where this came in, is 2 curb cuts weren't necessary, so 1 is safer. So that's just the questions of today would be for that. Did you want to speak, Mr. Calabat?
Yeah, good evening, board members, and again, thank you for the opportunity to present here before you guys tonight. Yeah, as you stated, this really came about when we were going through the final permitting process. Couple of the MDOT was concerned with the number of drive approaches. We attempted to submit comments and back to them to maintain as it was previously designed. We did express to them that fire circulation was a big driver for that secondary ingress curb cut, because it kind of made things a little bit easier. During the changes, which is why we actually changed the single approach to a more divided one. We created that concrete island that was specifically added so that we could accommodate the fire truck turning movements without any risk of impact to a vehicle that would be entering or exiting at the same time as the fire trucks, to provide that ingress and egress for both fire as well as any car that's trying to get out. So the changes to the single approach were material to make sure that we can get fire and traffic safety working well again for the approach. And as you know, we're always looking for the best solution, and especially with our own project, trying to make it better and improve it at every chance. So any questions you guys have, I'm here to answer.
Anyone have any questions for Mr. Calabat or Andrea?
No, I think it's actually a better plan, and I think it'll look nicer. Fewer curb cuts is safer, and I'm definitely in favor of that.
I look for a motion.
So moved.
Motion by Trustee
Support.
Kalinsky, support by Trustee Barnett. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? That passes.
Thank you. Have a great evening.
Thanks.
Good luck. Good luck with it now.
Next, we
It's been a
have,
long way.
Yes, we're coming along.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, everyone. I
Thank
appreciate
you.
it.
Thank you, Andrea.
Andrea.
Thanks, Patty. So next we have approval of payroll and vouchers for May 28th. Unless there's any changes or questions, I'd look for a motion.
So moved.
Motion by Trustee Barnett.
You both so moved it.
Support.
Support by Trustee Kalinsky. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That passes. And last, since Clerk Brooks not here, who would like to make the motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
By
Support.
Trustee Murray, support by Trustee Barnett. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That does pass. Thank you, and we'll see you in a couple weeks.